Alright, hello ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to talk about how to use colons within your writing. And the rules for colons are very easy, so this one will not take us very long. Alright, here we have three different sentences, and within each sentence the colon is used in a different way. They're all going to be used to introduce something, but what I want you to do now is pause the video and in your notes write down 1, 2, and 3 and write down how these colons are used to introduce what. And then when you're done, you can hit unpause and then check your answers. All right, let's go ahead and review. The first sentence, I think there are three movies all freshmen should watch before they're sophomores: The Godfather, Breakfast Club, and The Dark Knight Returns. This is a pretty simple rule for the colon, and hopefully you got it. It is to introduce a list. Okay? Sentence number 2. Sarah was a good runner, but most people don't know her true talent. She was a classically trained pianist. This is the one that usually people struggle with a little bit more, but what we're doing here is we're introducing or we're adding an explanation or clarification on what has previously been said. So we said that Sarah was a good runner, but most people don't know her true talent. Well, what's her true talent? She was classically trained pianist. And then number 3, one of my favorite quotes is a Buddhist proverb, do not speak unless it improves on silence. And here's another way we've seen colons used before, and that's to introduce a quote. All right, so to recap, oh, and also don't forget, hopefully you guys saw the error in here. It is the wrong kind of there. It should be T-A or T-H-E-Y apostrophe R-E. So always stay on your toes. But to recap, here are the 3 rules you need to know for colons. They're to introduce a list, to introduce a further explanation or clarification, and then finally to introduce a quotation. Yes, there is the 4th rule, but most of you learned this in like elementary school, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. And that's to use a colon to separate numbers in time, such as 7:30 a.m. Okay? So, once you understand those 3 rules, let's make sure we go over the most commonly misused rule for colons. And that's when people use colons after a dependent clause. And what you need to write down and be very specific about is that whatever comes before the colon, it must be an independent clause. So this first sentence here, my favorite foods are pie, pizza, and pinto beans. You can't say that. First off, hopefully your favorite food isn't pinto beans. But you can't say that because this can't stand alone on its own. My favorite foods are. But I see a lot of people think, oh, I'm using a list, therefore I need a colon. But once you've used the word are here, you're basically already telling me that you're about to list things, so that the colon ends up being redundant. So instead, this sentence would be okay if it just said, my favorite foods are pie, pizza, and pinto beans, without a colon. Let's look at the second sentence. If you want to improve your grade, you can do 3 things. Okay, the comma or the colon is okay there because if you want to improve your grade, you can do 3 things is an independent clause. I'm going to tell you on any future test you probably take that involves questions on colons, this is going to pop out. And this is going to be the distractor, where they give you something like my favorite foods are, and then they give you a colon. So make sure you are always aware. If you're not sure if a colon goes there, read what's to the left of it. And if it can't stand alone on its own as an independent clause, a colon is not appropriate there. All right? The other thing that confuses people is when do I use a colon before a quote and when do I use a comma before a quote? Usually I say if what you have before the quote can stand alone as its own sentence, like it's a full, complete thought, then go for the colon. If it's more like a setup or you're using the word says or said, then I'd prefer a comma there. So let's look at the first example. Chef Roberto won the cooking contest. I think I think a colon would work better there because Chef Roberto won the cooking contest can stand as its own independent clause. And then you have, you know, the quote from the guy. In the second quote, though, we just have he said. And I guess technically you could just have a sentence that said he said, but it almost begs the question of what's being said after that. And in this sentence, we need that quote to finish the actual sentence. So a comma here is more appropriate. He said, comma, to die tonight would be too short a life to live. Okay? So if we have an independent clause to the left of the colon and it looks like a full sentence and a complete thought, use the colon. If we're just using something short and it's something like he said or she says or whatever, then use a comma instead. Right? And that should basically be it. There aren't any further rules for colon, so the next thing you just need to do is give it a shot and practice it. Go ahead and review the video if you need to, and then when you're done, go ahead and fill out the form underneath this video that goes along with it. All right? Good luck.